That's what makes translation so difficult, is that you really need to know how a certain word is going to be interpreted on both sides of that. So how it was written, at that time, and then how it will be interpreted today. So, I mean, that is the real big challenge in terms of conveying information. And, Gurbani is using all these terms that we don't use today. So, it takes a lot for us to think about that. But yeah, that is a huge challenge for anybody in this field.
Well, I think you navigate it very well. And I think that was the thing. Like I said, it's very vivid, but it's also very relatable because you're saying it in English, but you're careful about what words you use. But I was surprised because I like I said, I'm not able to read it, interpret it. Even if I read it, I'm not really understanding what I'm reading. It's just kind of just mechanical reading. So when you're describing things, it hit me. It struck me how much detail is there. Like Kavi Santokh Singh is describing the blow came from the right side, went down from the left shoulder to the right hip. That amount of detail. If nothing else, I was trying to explain this to somebody recently because they were like, "Oh, I just focus on the Gurbani, I don't believe, these things." And I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to, but it is our written history. But one of the points I tried to make to him was like, if we made a movie today about the Sikhs and you had like James Cameron directing this movie or whatever, or whoever, the J.J. Abrams or one of the new guys, whatever, they're going to take some type of artistic liberty to convey things. But so like, just because we watch Braveheart, right, and we get so inspired at that story of Braveheart, well, somebody had to take the artistic liberty to say, this guy's going to run this way and that guy's going to clash here and this one guy's going to get beheaded. So I can see that. And it kind of struck me. I was like, yeah, you know what? Today we would watch a movie, but in those days you needed people like Santokh Singh to inspire you with the storytelling, not just tell the story. Right? It's not a documentary. It's meant to inspire that these were the qualities of the gurus. These were the qualities of the Sikhs that followed that guru.
Yes, absolutely. And he's doing something that is continuing a tradition that has been set by the gurus. Number one, just firstly on that sword, strike. We even know from contemporary sources, there was a Zoroastrian who kind of traveled India and he wrote this little book, Dabistan it's called, where he interviews different groups, different traditions. He interviewed some Sikhs as well. And even those Sikhs at those times, he actually met Guru Har Gobind and Guru Har Rai. Even those Sikhs at those times were talking about, this is the type of strike. It didn't mention specifically, but it was mentioning this is like, they knew at that time, the Guru did this type of strike, which is so insane and fascinating to know.
Yeah.
And so Santokh Singh is kind of carrying this tradition on because those references are mentioned in previous texts from the 1700s in Gurbalas Pache Shemi. Santokh Singh is then using that information and presenting it in an even more vivid light.
I see.
But in terms of inspiring and kind of making it your own, even if we look at Chandi Divar, Guru Gobind Singh's version of like a very older story of Durga, Pavani, Pagoti, in his version, he has guns. This is a mythological story, right? There was no guns back in the day, right? And in the old Indic texts, there was no guns. There was sword, arrows. But in Guru Gobind Singh's version, he's talking to an audience that has guns, right? So he's like, you know what? I'm going to put guns in this version. So that I find is like really interesting in how somebody can engage with an old text, repurpose it, and make it applicable to an audience of their time, right? And that's what I feel like we're doing today as well, especially on the podcast, right? So we're looking at Santokh Singh's text, we're trying to interpret it, we're trying to use terminology that is not deviating from the original, and we're changing it because that has happened when looking at these texts. But what we're going to do is, be accurate, but contextualize it and say, okay, why is the poet, why is the author using this? Is it referenced in the story prior to this? So oftentimes texts like Suraj Prakash will get criticized. Why is it including this story? Why is it saying this? Santokh Singh is just an expert referencer. And you can actually look back into the text of the 1700s, 18th century, and you'll find much of what you find controversial in Santokh Singh's text. He's just taking that from a tradition that he inherited that comes before him. So all of which to say, this kind of repurposing and making it applicable is a tradition that has been used by the gurus themselves, and using stories like Haranaksha and Prahalad, right? That's not a Sikh story. In Rehras at the start, we say Haranaksha, Dusht Haramariya, Prahalad Taraya. That's a story that comes from another tradition. Right. We're taking it as an example and using it to prove a different point, right? Yeah. That the divine protects his devotees, right? Not to say that, we have to, give a thumbs up to every single thing in their tradition that they use, right?
Yeah, no, and I think we see this in just modern movies and art and stories anyway. Like, we've seen different versions of this Batman, right? It's the core story, the core lessons are the same. The question between being a vigilante and being a criminal, where's the line? What about the motivation? Using fear as a tactic to get what you want. Those are the common themes, but the story has been retold depending on the artist who wants to tell that story with some, different tones. Like the Batman, the new movie, very different than the original ones with Michael Keaton and so they have totally different tones, even though same characters, same storyline. So yeah, it's interesting to think of it that way. But I do have a question for you. This has actually bugged me, but somehow it made sense because I followed along completely just fine. But why did you start with Bidhi Chand and Guru Hargobind? Then not okay. So first of all, why did you start with Guru Hargobind Sahib out of the whole text, and then why go out of order with his story and start with Bidhi Chand?
Because the simple answer is there was no master plan. There was no plan even to start a podcast.
Oh, okay.
Basically, my engagement with the Suraj Prakash text is I'm doing a PhD and my dissertation is going to focus on this text specifically. And to do that, I wanted to get a good grasp of the text. So I started listening to Katha as much as I could. And I really enjoyed the Katha of Guru Hargobind, specifically because Guru Hargobind's time is when you see this dramatic change in the tradition, right?
Right.
And through that contrast and through that change, you get almost a really deep understanding of, what is the essence here? Because there were many Sikhs at that time that saw that change and they were confused. They were wondering, why is the Guru doing this? Is this a deviation? Is this a fall to the Guru? People had those questions. Bhai Gurdas addresses those questions, right?
Yeah. So wait, hang on real quick right there. Sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but when you say these kinds of things, they spark things. And I just got to ask, it's interesting that you're saying that and listening to it. I was like, of course, people don't change ever. They were the same during Guru Sahib's time as they are today. Similarly, people today will say that can't be Guru Hargobind Sahib. That can't be true because the Guru would have been like Guru Arjan Dev Ji. Or, you know what I mean? And then the fact that people, even in Guru Hargobind Sahib's time, questioned the same way. Like, is this the correct behavior of a Guru? That was fascinating to hear that.
Yeah. And this is why I really love these texts as well, is that the person writing this text is a human. The people that he's talking about are humans, and they go through human emotions and human questions and human doubt and human experience. And that comes out when you read these texts. And even Bhai Gurdas, if you read him, you get it as well. He's talking about these issues as well. And that's what makes it really striking.